Hey, what's up guys? In this video we're going to talk about 2D arrays in Java. Previously in 1D array we stored the elements in a single row like structure where the indexing starts from 0, 1, 2 and so on, and we use one single pair of square bracket to access those elements. In example, if we pass in 0 inside that square bracket, this will access the first element in that array. Similarly, to access the second element we have to pass in 1, the index of that cell. But in case of 2D array, we store the elements in a matrix like row column structure where we have rows and columns, and those rows and columns has their own index values, like the row indexing starts from 0, 1, 2, and similarly the column indexing starts from 0, 1, 2. And here instead of one pair of square bracket we have to use two pair of square bracket to access one element. Here the first square bracket represents the row index and the second square bracket represents the column index. If we pass in the index 0, 0, this will access the first element which is located in the first row and first column. Similarly, if we pass in 0, 1, this will access the element at the position first row and second column. So now we're going to see how we can declare one 2D array. To declare one 2D array, first we have to write the data type like integer and then the name of the array. I'm gonna give it marks, and then we have to use two pair of square bracket to represent that it is one 2D array. And after the declaration, if we wanted to create the array or to allocate memory to the array, the way we can do that is first you have to write the name of the array, then the equal sign, and then the keyword new int, and inside the two square bracket we have to pass in the size of the array we wanted to allocate to that 2D array. In this example, this will create one array which has 2 rows and 3 columns. So first we have declared one array and then we have allocated some size to that marks array. Now we can declare and create one 2D array at the same time. We can pretty much combine these two statements in a single line with the syntax integer mark and equal sign and then new int, and then we have to specify the size of the array. So now we're going to see how we can declare and initialize one 2D array. So first we have the data type, then the name of the array, and then two pair of square bracket to represent that this is one 2D array. And after the equal sign we have pair of braces, and inside that brace we have another pair of brace which will hold the elements for the first row. Like in example, I'm gonna pass in 1, 2 and 3 separated by comma, and this will be stored in the first row. And after that I'm gonna have one comma and use another pair of braces, and here we have to pass in the elements we wanted to store in the second row. So I'm gonna pass in 4, 5 and 6, and I'm gonna have one third row and which will hold the values 7, 8 and 9. So here in this line of statement, first we have declare one array and also we have passed in the data elements we wanted to store in that array. What basically this line of statement will do, it will create one 2D array which has 3 rows and 3 columns, and the values in the first pair of braces will be stored in the first row, like the 1, 2, 3 will go in the first row, and the data items in the second pair of braces will go in the second row, like 4, 5, 6 will be stored in the second row, and the data items in the third pair of braces will go in the third row. So 7, 8, 9 will be stored in the third row. So now we're going to do an example program and try to understand the concept of 2D array in detail. To understand the concept in detail, first we have created one class called array, and then inside the curly braces we have the main method public static void main, and inside the main method we're gonna declare and initialize one array, and we are going to use the nested for loop to access all the array elements and print them onto the console. So first we are going to declare and initialize one array, and we are going to pass in the data items 1, 2, 3 in the first row and 4, 5 and 6 in the second row. So we are basically making one 2 by 3 matrix which will have 2 rows and 3 columns. So I'm gonna write the for loop for integer I equals 0, I less than 2 because there are 2 rows, and then I plus plus, and inside the curly braces we have inner for loop, and I'm gonna use integer j equal 0, j less than 3 because there are 3 columns, and j plus plus, and we're gonna use the system.out.print method to print the data elements, and we're going to use marks I, which is row index, and j, which is the column index, and after that we're going to have the line break. So we're going to use the println method to break the line after every row data has been printed. So we're going to save that and we're going to compile that javac array.java. So the program has been successfully compiled. Now we're going to run that program with Java and the name of the class file, which is array. And you can see the output is 1 2 3 4 5 6, which are the elements of the array. So we have successfully accessed the array elements and printed them onto the console. Now we're going to see how the code is working. First, this line of code will be executed and it will create one array which has 2 rows and 3 columns, and the array will be initialized with all the elements, like 1 2 3 will go in the first row and 4 5 6 will go in the second row. Then the outer for loop will be executed and it will initialize I to 0, and then inner for loop will be executed and it will initialize j to 0. So marks ij will be marks 0 0. So it will access the first element 1 and going to print 1 onto the console. Then the inner for loop will reiterate and this time the value of j will be 1. So now marks ij will be marks 0 1, and it is going to access the element 2 and going to print 2 onto the console. Then the inner for loop will reiterate and value of j will be 2, and now marks ij will be marks 0 2, and it will access the element 3 and going to print 3 onto the console. In the next iteration, the inner for loop will break because the condition j less than 3 will be false, and it will execute this line of code and the cursor will go down the next line, and the control will go to the beginning of the outer for loop, and this time the value of I will be increased by 1 and new value is going to be 1, and again j will be initialized to 0. So this time marks ij will be marks 1 0, and it will access the element 4 and going to print 4 onto the console. Now the inner for loop will reiterate and j will be 1. So marks ij will be 1 1, and it will access the element 5 and going to print 5 onto the console. And in the next inner loop iteration, the value of j will be 2 and marks ij will be marks 1 2, and it will access the element 6 and going to print 6 onto the console. And this way we have accessed all the elements of the array and successfully printed them onto the console. Hope you understand the concept of 2D array in Java. I will see you in the next one. Thank you.